Greetings everyone, this is Lodrik and this is game War in the Pacific Admins Edition, and this is now the second part of the setup for a Japanese player. I load now the game against the PC, the first turn, because if you play against the PC you don't have this special rule that you cannot check the upcoming ships. Normally if you play the multiplayer, then some buttons are here simply grayed out the first turn, but if you play against the PC you can use everything immediately. And I want only explain this better here now and not first in the second turn of my real game. So you can click this and then you get this overview first. And here are normally first two separate pool points behind. You can see here is your Navy shipyard. This is a production per turn, and merchant shipyard production per turn, and you have 0 points in pool. You can simply first click the Navy, then you only see what all belongs to the Navy construction. You can see here carriers, or fleet carriers, and light carriers, battleships, battle cruisers, destroyers, destroyer escort, fast transport destroyers, and submarines. And all the rest belongs to the merchant shipyard. So light cruisers, escort carriers, and tankers, AOs, and all the other stuff. So this is the separation that you must first understand. The next question is, you can touch, like, we can first bring this into order, and we maybe take out sub chasers. I don't know if they're belonging to submarines. Looks like okay. Then we can see already the bigger ships now. We can also take out this and can take out this, but change nothing first. We can see here the next ship is the Shoho, and it's arrived in 50 days with normal production speed, and this is the points per day this ship consumes. You can also see where it will arrive. You can always click something, then you can see, okay, this is this ship, and this is the Air Force is included this ship. Okay. Now you have the option to left click, increase the speed, or hold the speed, or go back to normal. And I think first the points will change, I think first the next turn, because now you can see that here you can see the estimated, then we can see it change. Now it's 1383. Then we can see the Navy shipyard consume more points, and it's more points than we really produce, so we have a problem already here, that we simply have not enough production power to produce all this stuff. And if we go to halt, then we can see, okay, then you have a surplus now. This is the first rule. But we cannot see how much impact this have on the days. But I would say it's 25 to 30%, something like this. So if we keep this normal production, in 50 days we get this ship, and maybe if we make a fast production, maybe after 38 days we get this ship, something like this. And this also normally gives you a good overview. I increase here something, so you pay now more compared to normal, and then what how I buffer this, because if I cannot put now everything on faster, then you can see you simply the shipyard is completely overloaded, and if this happened, then the program simply, I don't know if it's by luck how he choose it, but the game simply say, okay, the points I have I give to the shipyard, and then the production will run, and some shipyards simply get no points, means the production will be temporarily stopped. And so if you want control, you must make sure that you not run your shipyard in zero. So it is maybe first better to the first turn maybe stop first 1 or 2 ships, that you can get some buffer points, and 1 or 2 turns later you have some maybe 1 or 2,000 buffer points, and then you start to increase the ships you want to increase. But you can also make already the first turn your calculations and see how it works. I mean, if one ship is temporarily not under construction, you will not lose too much normally. Okay. Some tactics. For the Japanese player, I would say the carriers up to here, I would say they are better to increase. I mean, in a perfect situation, I would say increase all of them and stop all the rest. Oops. Stop. I don't know, I think there's no difference between halted and stopped. I think only stopped is not starts construction, something like this, and this is already under construction, but it's I think it's really the same. There is no, you can only hold this construction, you cannot stop this construction, but the meaning is, I think, the same. The reason is that all these carriers, they are more or less useful, and they maybe arrive also in a time period that you can also make a use of them. And these 45 carriers are simply too late. I think the games end latest at June 46, so if you have them, you can maximum use them 1 year. I would say, I don't know. I would say these are the ships you can first stop to get some. Oops. You can also see it's changed nothing, so this ships never starts so far. But this ship, you can see the points changing, so this ship is already under construction. And why I would say more or less here is the end. The Shinano is simply, I explained it already before. This is original the third Yamato battleship, and the Japanese convert this ship halfway finished to a carrier. And in reality there was some meaning behind this, and it makes somehow sense, but in this game it's not working. In this game it's simply too much tonnage for too less air capacity. It's simply, in this game, a terrible carrier. I mean, it's maybe not. The capacity of this carrier is like a medium carrier, like this 61 carriers, I think. No, even a 60. Yeah. The points you can see here, so roughly if you see higher points, more value ship. This is the overall. So you can see here, this is a 157 points ship, so it's a very value ship. The Taiho with 100 points is also a full fleet carrier. You can see 72. So these are fleet carriers, the number 1 carriers. Then you have here 2 of these 84 carriers. They are, I don't know, they are more expensive. I don't know why. Maybe it's something with the game. They normally can carry only 53 airplanes. And then you have these medium-sized carriers. They can carry a little more, but they are somehow a little cheaper. But roughly you can say more points, more value ship, more better ship. but not for this Giano, because it is something like a battleship. You can see here the protection. A carrier don't need something like this. This is totally too much for a carrier. A carrier is an airport, a swimming airport, and nothing more. And it's waste of. If this ship ever comes in a gun duel with some other cruisers or battleships, it will always sink. And maybe you can say it's protection against torpedoes, but even this will not be enough to handle more than 2 or 3 torpedoes. So I don't know. And the benefit is only if you stop the construction of this carrier, you can save a lot of points, and these points you can consume somewhere else. So this is my more or less setup for my carriers. Then we can go for the carrier escort. You can see gray never starts. These are under construction. Normally I would also say you can increase them all. They are only support carriers, so the big difference is that they are slower. They normally don't have much flag power, and they have also often no radar, or very late they get radar. Also the range of these carriers are limited, and I think they all miss torpedoes. I think these carriers, they have never torpedo capacity. So you cannot use these carriers for torpedo bombers. You can use torpedo bombers, but this means that the torpedo bombers will not transport torpedoes, they only will use bombs. So I would say I would better put the torpedo bombers on a normal carrier, and maybe, or you put your fighters. So something like this. And then you have later this kind of escort carriers, and they are normally too shitty. I would also normally not say more. The problem is that their speed are very slow. And then you can see capacity of airplanes 8. What you want with 8? I don't even understand this. 12 is already, well, not much. 8 is I don't know. It's totally waste. I would say this is waste to produce. This first, yes, okay, but the rest, no. If you make normal production or fast production, I would always say carriers are the most important for the Japanese, so I will always push the carriers. Okay, with the battleships, you only have these 2 battleships. And these are the same type. They are both Yamato battleships. This is Yamato, the type ship, and this is a sister ship. And I would say here, you can see already how expensive they are to produce. I would say stop the production of the Yamato, because you get points. These points you can try to push your carriers. And the reason behind this is more or less, the Yamato is finished 20th of May, that Musashi is first at the 1st of December. So there's a gap of 6-7 months. Or even more. But 7 months. And I prefer to operate all these ships in a pair of the same type. It's not a must, of course, but you can say if you stop now the production of Yamato, you get points. The points you can invest in carriers or something else. And then you wait that this date will match this date, and then you start the production again. You will maybe not match it perfectly, but if they arrive in the same week, it's also fine. And then you have 2 battleships of the same class can operate together. Then you can make 1 battleship squadron with these 2 battleships. If they operate, they have the same speed, they have the same characteristic, means they must have the same portary arm, because these are the 46 centimeter guns. These ships must go port level, I think at least port 8. Better is port 9 or 10. So it is complicated to maintenance this ship. And if you have then two of this if you mix this battleship with the other battleship, then you still have the problem that this battleship need a port 9 and the other battleship normally also need only a port 7, but you still must go to a port 9 to get this guy get ammunition. So it's make normally no sense from the logistic point. So this is my setup. I would say I don't speed up this. I mean, the other option is that you speed up this battleship, but it consumes so many points. And I simply say battleships are still battleships, and this is the Second World War, not the First World War. They are nice to have, but they will not win the war for you more. The time is over for this. And this is the best combination, I would say. This is my setup. I only explain. Then you can see here is the Japanese, they get this 5 light cruisers, and this is a scout cruiser. You can speed them up, but normally the light cruisers have no real impact in the game. You have this scout cruiser. It's okay, but the real purpose for these ships is something else. You have the option end of 42 to convert this scout cruisers all to carriers. The conversion need I think 6 months. So mid of 43 you can get some additional carriers. Nothing crazy, something like a good escort carrier, but or a light carrier. Some have, I think, torpedoes, some don't have torpedoes. To use the scout cruiser in the original setup to make some scout planes here, and then you can also do this. Then it's only purely scout. I mean, if you this kind of ships, they only scout for you. They don't even have any battle value. They have no protection. These are destroyer guns. They can fight with destroyers, but nothing more. They cannot even hunt submarines. They have some anti-aircraft stuff, but they also have no radar. So maybe in the end game, yeah, but not at the beginning. So they are only support units, but they have a high value. The best is normally to convert them to a carrier, and then they have a real value. Okay. And the other light cruisers, they are okay, but nothing really special. About how I set up my units, I can discuss later, but I would only simply say this is all heavy and light cruisers, so you don't get any heavy cruisers, never ever, and you get only this few 5 light cruisers in all of the game. And you can see here is one with 341. This is something like the new type of light cruisers the Japanese want build, but they never had the chance. And yeah, it's simply like this. You can see this guy already start with the radar. They have better guns. They have much better anti-aircraft guns, and they carry 2 scout planes. So, and they have also armor a little. I don't know if the others have armor. The others have also armor. Okay, but we only get one of this. Normally they are better than the rest, but they're also more expensive. Okay, light cruisers and destroyers. I would only simply say keep an eye on these numbers. And then you can see already there's 2 big differences, the 10 and the 13. The 10 is the standard destroyer stuff of the Japanese army, roughly 2,500 tons. It's a big destroyer already. It's a multi-use destroyer. You can see they have 6, these are now 5-inch guns, or 12.7. They have enough firepower. This is good firepower for a destroyer. They have anti-aircraft stuff. They have also anti-submarine stuff. And they also have torpedoes. And they have here 2 quad launcher. So here's one and here's a second. So these are multi-purpose ships. They can do everything a little, but they have no focus points. They can make a surface engagement, they make a torpedo strike, they can hunt, destroy submarines, and they have also anti-aircraft capacity to be something like an escort ship. It's nothing bad. They're okay, but they have no real focus point. And then you have this 13. And these guys, they looks first nothing better. You would say, oh, why they are more expensive? Nothing is crazy. They are normally slower. They have only 32 knots. These have 33 knots or a little more. It's a little changing. But the big difference is the guns. These are 10 centimeter guns. These are multi-purpose guns. And these are the best anti-aircraft guns you can have. The Japanese, also in real life, these are the best anti-aircraft guns. Not at the beginning, maybe, now it looks a little not so great. Also keep in mind, these are long-range anti-aircraft guns. This is short-range machine guns. So, these guns will protect the fleet. If there's an airstrike, there's something like first the airstrike arrived, and the whole fleet will make a attempt to shoot at these airplanes with the fleet guns, or the fleet anti-aircraft guns. This is like this. Any ship in your task force will use his long-range anti-aircraft guns to try to damage, to break, and to destroy enemies attacking aircraft. After this check, the airplanes will choose which ship they want to attack. And then it's an attack of the airplane attacks the ship. And then these guns plus your machine guns and your local short-range guns will try to attack the enemy airplane. But then it's really only one ship against the airplane. Then you can use also these guns. The problem is that this number is the sum of all. So if you have hundreds of these guys, then you have a very high number, but this ship will still not protect the fleet. It will only protect himself. So keep this in mind. And these guns, they have a long range, they have a high penetration, they're making good damage, and they're still good enough to make surface engagement. But the main purpose of this ship is more or less escort carriers, because they have long range, high efficient anti-aircraft stuff. This is why they are more expensive. And also the Americans, they recognize that this destroyer was a really big improvement for the Japanese, because these ships, they are also dual purpose, and they have more. They are bigger. The problem is the rate of fire is simply too slow. Everything looks, they're making more damage. Yeah, of course, if they can hit, they make more damage. But the problem is with this kind of flak stuff is you need the numbers. You need the numbers of shells you can get in the air. And you can shoot this once, but you can shoot the 10 centimeter guns 3 times. And this is the difference. So at the end, these guns are simply, the focus for these guns is surface engagement, and secondary only anti-aircraft. And this is the opposite. These are primarily anti-aircraft, but they can still make surface engagement. Okay. So this is only about destroyers, and there are some, I think, special destroyers like this, the 12 one. They are saying things like something. Well, this is super fast destroyer. So this is normally a standard 10, but they get additional engine power, so he's faster like this. And you can see there's only one of this. And then you get some of these emergency destroyers. You can see already they are only 1,500 tons. They are much smaller. They are slower. They are, I would say, not real destroyers. They are escort destroyers. So the main purpose is to escort cargo ship, to escort tanker, not for fleet engagement. They are simply too slow for this. Okay. And you can see you get a lot of this, so I would simply say they are escort, not 4. Then you get some of the 13. But you can see the number of 13 are not really crazy high. And so I would say any of this special ship you can get, keep them somewhere. And if you can get 4 together, I would say then you give them to the carriers. Of course, you can give already everyone out, but I mean, to keep some warship in the harbor only to wait is waste. A warship must work, or it's have no real value for you. Okay, destroyers. You don't get the destroyer escort. I think only Americans get this. This is this fast transport destroyers. They are something like. First, you can see they're coming all in 44. So this is something like emergency construction stuff. They're even more slow. They're even more less useful for really engagement and more for only to transport something quickly compared to a normal transport ship and have some flak power and little anti-sub. So they are really only support destroyers. I would say, yeah, fast destroyers, but I don't know if you need fast destroyers in 44. I don't know. Okay, and this is all the warship stuff, and then this is only here: transport, cargo, oiler, tanker. The last stuff is really for fighting. This is submarines. In submarines, you can also see this again. The numbers, higher number means more value ship, and then you can see here some with 33, 26, and 24. And then you get a feeling if the ship is better or not better. I would only simply say, I explain this again. I, with a double figure, is a better ship. You can see 33 points. I, with a triple figure, is cheaper. The range is shorter. You can see the difference is here. 14,000, 8,000. Okay. I think the firepower is the same. 6 torpedo launchers against 6. So this is more or less the same. You can see the fighting power of the double figure and this triple figure is more or less the same, but it's the difference of range. Because of different range, the points are different. Then you have this row type submarines. There's more or less the same, but row means more or less short range. So you have let's better do this for the name because this is more easy to handle. Yeah. Then you have this row with double figure and row with triple figure. This is the same. This is already a short range and less powerful. So you can see the normal submarine have 6 tubes. This have only 4 tubes. And then 2 is long range. Compare. And this is super short range. Normally these are defense submarines, so they are, you can put them near around of Japan or Philippines or Singapore to protect something, but not normally to engage enemies. They are something like patrol ships, but submarine patrol. Also the speed is slow and everything is simply cheaper. So this is, you can simply say, always longer number, more shitty. Because this is Japan and they have simply other thinking. Okay, this is the first, this is normally I think enough. Then you have this, then you everything, you can see this SST or U-boat. You can, I think, forget them. But if you find a use, you can use them, but I would say they are useless. First, you can see they have no attack value. This you can also forget because you forget it. And then you can say, yeah, what is the use of this? So they are cargo submarines. Okay, cargo submarines. And if you talk about cargo submarines, in real World War II, there was a purpose because there was some very special minerals the Japanese had, and there was some stuff the Germans had, and they both lack something. So the Germans sent something to Japan, and the Japanese sent something to Germany, because you don't need a big amount of this stuff, but you need it, very special minerals. And then you can say, okay, then it makes sense. Okay, you use this submarine cargo ships for this kind of super long range stuff. But here in the game, there is no Germany, there is no interaction with Germany, so you don't need them. So, I mean, yeah, tell me if you find a real purpose for this kind of cargo submarines. I would say it makes no sense. I would simply say, oh, stop the production. You don't need them because they have no second. And they also have high value. If you lose them, you lose a lot of points. So I don't know. I don't know if you can convert them to a normal submarine. I think this is not possible. So stop them. And this is, I think, for the submarines. There are some others. But okay, then you have the 100er, then you have the 200er, then you can see the 200er the next generation. They're using 5395. Okay, I don't know where's the difference now. Maybe somewhere else. I think they have already starting with radar. Yeah, okay. So these submarines, I think, start without radar. Yeah. And they're more expensive because they come for 45 first. They start already with radar. And then there's this, yeah, the 200 edition, they are also, no, the range is normal, but the 400. The 400 you can see, this is, they can carry 3 airplanes, and they have a super range. And something like a U-cruiser. I think officially these are U-cruisers, because they have 3,500 tons, so they're super heavy. And the downside or the problem is with this ship is they're arriving in end of 44. So at that time, the Americans have surface radar, they have the best sonar, they have super good submarine hunter equipment. So I don't know if you really can find a way to operate this ship without losing them immediately. Because normally I would say if the submarine is so fat, it's easy to sink. Because it's a big target. But okay. So this is about submarines and the type of submarines to explain it and to understand it. And these are the HR submarines. So you can also see super short range. So these are the emergency production submarine stuff. Okay, submarines and the rest, I don't know, there's not so much. A little support stuff. The most of support ships you convert. You have simply a lot of cargo ships, and most of the cargo ships you convert. You cannot see it here now, but later I can show this. You simply say, okay, you have a cargo ship and you need more support ships, then you simply say, okay, I need more AV, I need more AS, and then you can convert them. You not really produce so many of them more. Minesweepers have similar stuff. This is all not really more important equipment. Okay, this is to explain the production. You can choose, and you have at least the option to change it, or you don't touch it and then everything is fine. Okay, this is first about the production of ships. There's not more about this to say. And the army construction and the navy reinforcement stuff, there's no way that you do anything. You would simply get it. This is like the Americans, you get it. you get it, and you don't boost it all. Okay, now I go out of this and load, because I'm not 100% sure if there's anything different in the map setup, but I don't think so. If you make a play via mail or against the PC. Okay, so we are now in the game via email, and then if you touch this, you can see in the first turn, oops, you cannot touch it. So we must wait one turn. Okay. Yeah, because I just saw it. I explained it. What is special, or what the Japanese need, is normally this pilot replacement stuff. This is normally the pool pilots, and then is the output of point. Every month you get 150 Navy pilots and 195 Army pilots. The numbers I think can change slowly. And every pilot is finished with school will normally come with an average experience of 35. Then you have this pools with reserve and truck com and so on, and then this is a normal, as this is your starter backup pilots. And I want only say this is the truck com. This is normally the training command. And remember, you need for every nation 10 elite pilots in this group to get this training bonus. And if you play the Japanese, you have two nations. You have the nation Japan Army and you have the nation Japan Navy. So you control Japan, but Japan itself is split in Navy and Army. At least for the Air Force. Okay. You need 10, but you don't need more. If you have less than 10, I think you get no bonus. And if you have 10 or 100, no difference. You need 10. At least, but not more. If you get this 10, you can save heavy industry points. Because the game simply say every student, these are all the students together, stay at the first of the month, the game charge industry points for every student to pay for the teacher and whatever. So every student is in school and not ready in the pool, you have to pay heavy industry points. If we have this truck com with 10 elite pilots, then there's always something like a check. If the student is successful and can skip 1 month. And I would roughly say, normally a pilot needs 12 months to finish school. And if the TRAPCOM is activated, I would say maybe the student don't need 12 months. He need maybe only 10 months in average. Something like this. So you can save heavy industry points. Nothing else. You don't get more pilots, because the limitation is that what is come every month in. You only get them quicker finish with school. You also don't get experience bonus. You only get them cheaper ready. But to save something, if it's so easy to get, why not? So I would always suggest to get this 10 elite pilots as soon as possible inside this pool. And how to get these pilots inside is normally if you go for top pilots. Maybe it's not working in the first turn. I think maybe it's not working in the first turn. Normally they must plop something up. Maybe the first turn you cannot see it. Yeah. But then I explain this if we really have the real game. Because if it's really, this is the only option I think you can get this. There is no other way. Because now this is all empty. And you cannot check for experience here, no. But you can Yeah, but you cannot see it because you cannot. Ah, here's the bottom. Genau. Here, so this is possible. Elite pilots have normally this golden name because you can do something with them what only elite pilots can do. First, elite pilot need at least 80 or over 80% experience. You can see that that guy here have 81, so he is elite, and that guy is just 80. So he need one more point, and then he change also to elite. And every elite pilot, if you touch them, you get always this information. You won't bring them to the training command, yes or no. And now we can. The only real problem is if you say Navy, then now you only see Navy pilots. You can see a nation Navy. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, at least 12. So you can bring all this, or 10 of these guys already in the training command at day 1, and then it's done for the Navy. But for the Army, you have only the 79, 79, 79, and blah 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 blah. So to get the Army guys done is not so easy and not really always possible in the first months. But after 2 or 3 months, I think you have enough elite pilots that you can get these 10 people together. So using this guy so close before 80 will be pity, but I always will try to get this 10 pilots as soon as possible, only to save these heavy industry points in the long run. Good, then we also have this done. And you can also see it's more important to have this normally Army guys, because you simply get more Army pilots than Navy pilots, so you save more with the Army guys, but the difference is not so crazy big. Good. So this is about this Navy stuff and this training command, because this is special. The Americans, they also have this, but I think for them it's at the end not really matters, because they don't have this heavy industry question, so they do not really save something. They only have then the benefit to say, okay, I get faster, more pilots. But I'm not really sure if this is really so important for the Americans, because they also cannot change the production of airplanes, and I think they have most of the time always enough pilots, so you never get so many airplanes that you are running out of pilots. The allies, they have simply more pools. They have Americans, they have Australians, they have Dutch, they have French, I think, British, US Navy, US Army, and I think I forgot some more. And New Zealand, and so they have much more pools, and in total, I think they get 3 times more pilots, or even more pilots per month. So I don't think that they really run out of pilots. And the next problem is that at least the American and the British, they have also higher starter experience. I think they start with 40 or even 45 experience. The Japanese only start with 35. So the Allied pilots have simply a better ground training and are more faster, ready for combat. And the Japanese pilots, you get them ready to fly an airplane, but then you still must keep them here in Japan in a training school for at least 1 or 2 months again, only to make them really ready. Because a pilot with less than 50 experience, or 55, is not very useful in the fight. I would always try to get an experienced pilot, or the experience over 50 and the skills at least to 60. I can show you this, because only talking about is one thing, but showing is always better. This is our Zero Fighter Squadron, and the carrier pilots are normally always elite. They're always the best pilots. Then you can see this squadron have an average experience of 75, so very high. They have also high morale. So they are ready, they are eager to fight. And you can see that they are all very close to be easy to change to be an elite pilot. Okay, the last guys, yeah, maybe not, but the first 5 or 10, it's not hard to get them to elite. They have also high skills in air combat, and they also have a high skills in defense. Defense is normally only air combat defense, means how to evade attack. In strafing is normally the ground attack with the cannons on machine guns. If this is useful, hard to say. I think simply the firepower of a 20mm gun is simply not enough. Maybe okay to hunt submarines and cargo ships, but many cargo ships have anti-aircraft guns, and even a small anti-aircraft gun can easily kill an unprotected fighter, because the Zeros, they have no armor, and it's still hard for a Zero to really do a lot damage. They can damage a little here, a little there, but I don't know if it's... I'm not an expert for this, if it's really useful. At least not with this kind of fight. Maybe with a fighter bomber, or if we have special equipment, if you have a 37mm gun or 40mm gun, it's maybe another question. Okay, so the average experience, what do I want to tell? I don't know. It was about the pilots and the experience, and then yeah, and only so this is now elite. You cannot even train so high. If you train a pilot, and even if you keep him for 1 year, the cap is 70. You cannot go over 70 experience. You cannot go the skill over 70. Training without real experience and missions and real fight is the maximum is 70, but 70 is already good, I would say. Okay, this is the carrier and the high skilled pilot, and I think we can compare this maybe here. Here you can see this is now some army. You can see they are belonging to the Imperial Japanese Army Air Force, and then you can see their average experience only 45, and then you can see okay, so there are 2 elite pilots and the rest are students. These 2 guys teaching and they are learning. And yes, if you have at least 1 guy with high experience, and I think the game simply say only the gap. The bigger the gap, the more easy or more the higher the possibility that the student gets a bonus experience or have the success to get experience and skill. This is simply the old guy explaining this other students how to fly best, or how to use skills, and he give a boost that this other pilots simply can faster go up to the maximum level. And it says 70 is the maximum. So these 2 guys normally learn nothing more. They learn everything already what you can learn without a real battle experience. Okay, and so this means more or less, only to explain it, it is the best to keep 1 pilot. You can always say block him, so retain means this pilot cannot leave this group. And if we will now say, okay, everything is here, all fine, I don't want them more. Okay, and now I can say, this 1 guy, he's super good, and I need only 1 guy with experience. So I can say now, release with the most experience, the top pilot. Tuck, and we left him. 1 pilot less. He is now in the general reserve. And because now we have 25 airplanes but only 24 pilots, then we can say, okay, give me 1 new guy. Then we say, give me 1 new guy. Then it's 1 airplane, 1 pilot. And I think this must be this guy. You can see they are all 40, 40, 40, and this is the 35 guy. This guy just entered this service. He also have now an airplane and will every turn do something. Normally I would say go for training, go 100% training, no range to simply reduce operational losses, and fly in 15 or 20,000, something like this. You can make sweep or you can make escort. It's no big difference. I think the sweep will increase the attack value, and the escort have more the focus on air defense. But at the end, it's trains both. And now one more stuff. Because this is a hard locked air unit, you will not get this army out of Japan. So they will train non-stop. You can also see that this squadron have a maximum of 30. And in August 42 it will change to a size of 42. So you can now draw additional airplanes. So maximum 5 more, then we have in total 5. You can see that these 5 airplanes, they need 2 days maintenance to be operational. This means we can now accept 5 more pilots, because in 2 days we have here 30 airplanes for 30 pilots. Check again. So we have here now some more. You can see that, and that you can see that the average, it's not fixed 35, it's the average is 35. Can be a little higher, can be a little lower. Okay. And now is the next question. We can still see, oh, I can ask still for more pilots. I won't do this, yes or no. And I would say you can do it. Because this is first, they're not a fighting squadron. So they are here only for learn something. So you can better say, I give them more. This is the maximum. A little overload. Now 40 pilots for 35. It means more or less that only 30 pilots can fly an airplane every day. So only 30 pilots learn something. But the 10 other pilots simply have rest. They take a day off. And this simply will make sure that your fatigue will not normally ever can increase much. Maybe 5 or 6. But not over 10 normally. So you never must give the whole squadron a day off. You simply say 30 airplanes, 40 pilots, 10 pilots are always in rest, and the game will, I think, simply say the pilots with the highest fatigue will have a day rest, something like this. So you don't really must manage anything. You only say train. The downside is, of course, to get the pilots ready for combat will need a little longer, because every pilot cannot train every day. Only maybe like one pilot can only train 5 or 6 days per week, and 1 or 2 days he have off. If you have 30 airplanes and 30 pilots, then every pilot will train every day. But after some time, maybe the fatigue will be higher, and if it's over 20, you must give also a day rest. If you don't do this, then higher fatigue over 20 have the risk of operational losses. And if you have operational losses, then you lost the airplane, and in worst case you lost airplane plus a pilot. And so this needs longer to fully train your pilots, but you don't must manage so much. And second, you get not 30 pilots, you get 40 pilots. I mean -1, because the elite guy, this guy is will keep you. You normally not take him out more. Okay, this is about roughly how to manage the air squadron and why it makes sense to keep more pilots here, and always try to maximize possible numbers and keep the range of 0 and training for 100%. I mean, I think this is also what Dojo explained in this original setup turns for how to play the game. You can, of course, not do this only for something like a training squadron. You can also do this for a fighting squadron. Why not? What I would not normally do is in the training squadron to give them backup airplanes. You can give also up to 3, oh no, I don't know, it's depending on the size, I think. Sometimes 3, sometimes more. You can give this backup airplanes. Means if something is in maintenance, then the game will simply move these airplanes always automatically in service and then back, and service and back, so that if some airplane is damaged or in maintenance, you always can run the maximum. You never can run over the 30 airplanes in every turn. But in a training squadron, you normally never have any really maintenance problem. So if you don't have really high stock on airplanes, I would say it's a waste. You can better keep them in the pool. The first rule is try get every squadron to the maximum number. Next rule is try to have at least some backup airplanes here, 10, 20, 30, something like this. And first, after this is all done, you can maybe think about to give backup airplanes to a squadron. Is my thinking. Everyone can try his own. Okay, this is about this kind of Air Force. And now we can, because we are just started with the Air Force, we can switch to the troops tracker software. Not more too long, but we can still do this. Tracker. Okay, this is now the tracker software. You can download this from the homepage, and I also make some link somewhere. And the problem is only I cannot. One game, this tracker software can never go to the past, and it's you cannot delete this. If I delete it, I lose all my information, so I cannot empty it now. But we won't use this normally. It's only to explain some stuff with the air production. And this is the best is you can really always compare airplanes with. And you can not only compare, you can also see something like an upgrade path. So for the Japanese, you can go do this. You can say, I want to see the Navy, I want to see the Navy, I want to see the fighters, I want to see the fighters. And then you can simply first compare this. You can say this is A5M4 and this is A6. So this is the next generation. You can see it is other type of airplane, and then you can see the difference. So faster, more range, more firepower, anything like this. You can also see what kind of weapons they have, and so on and so on. And the most important stuff is everything. This all you can also find in the game. What you cannot find in the game is normally this upgrade path. Because, and this is simply very important only for the Japanese normally. You can see this airplane, the next development level will be the A6M2 Senbaku. And where I can find this? No, it's not a fighter. It is a fighter bomber. Don't ask me, this is the game. Okay, so the game say the next development step of this Zero fighter A6M2 is this AM62 fighter bomber. And then you can see that this fighter bomber will go develop to the A6M5B. Okay, the A6M5B is a fighter. So we change from fighter to fighter bomber, from fighter bomber back to fighter. And this is always the smooth step-by-step path to upgrade an airplane for the production. The point is, if the game say, if a factory produces an airplane like this one, this is now, if you have factories and they're producing this fighter, and then one day you will say, oh, I don't want this fighter more, it's simply too old. If it's now in end of 42, you will say, my zeros are getting killed so easy, I need something better. then you have two choices. You can say, okay, I can produce this one. I can change my factory to this type because this is now the next generation. This is M3. This fighter is better. We can compare this. You can see it gets a little faster, some other stuff changing. I mean, it's not a crazy good upgrade, but simply it's his next generation. And then if you do this, two things will happen. The factories will all gets damaged and you lose 30% of your factories. 30% of your factories are destroyed in the, because this is a game rule, and all what is not destroyed is damaged. Then you must repair it first. Because if you change from this airplane to this airplane, they are not in the upgrade path. If you want change from this airplane, this is the next airplane. If you change the factory producing zeros, and you have a factory with 30, an output of 30 airplanes per month, and you change this factory to this fighter or fighter bomber, all 30 factories will immediately start the production of this airplane. You lose no factory, nothing gets damaged, everything works smooth. It's a game rule, accepted. And this is more or less the reason why you need this tracker software to understand, what is the upgrade? Because sometimes it's a little strange. It's strange why I changed from this to this one and then I changed back to the 5. Why? I can also not explain you. It's simply like this. And then you can use this software to find a smooth way to upgrade airplanes. To explain something, you start with this machine, but this is the next one. And you can see end of 40, this is the start of the war. This is a beginning of 44, so this is a big gap. So then you will think twice, oh, I do this, yes or no. Then is the question if you maybe use some R&D tools to try to get this airframe. And then you can see from this one, the next is a normal line. So A3, land-based, this is not a carrier-based. This is a carrier-based, more or less. Yeah, it's very similar. Then this one is now carrier-based. He can operate from a carrier. This can only operate from land-based. And then you can see this is a A6M3, A6M3A. So this is an upgrade. Everything works smooth. And from this A edition, you change to the normal 5 edition. And you can also see the date. Then you can see it's simply always 6 months later, or like this. And then you come to, this is a normal B, the normal 5, and then you can see the next is then the 5B, then you go to the 5B, then the 5Bs will upgrade to the 5C, and the 5C will upgrade to the last in line, the 8. Don't ask me for the names. So then you can see this is the end of this production line. And if you always switch the factories from one to the next and always keep this in check, all your factories will never get damaged, will never lose something. You will always keep them immediately under production. This is very important for the Japanese. There are not many airplanes really can use this. Most of the airplanes have only 1 or 2 types and then it's over. Like these are now the Zero fighters, they are one of the most important. Then you have this jack. You can do this with the jack. The jack, this is the first jack, and it will upgrade to the jack 3. So this is the first of its type. Then you will go to the 5, so the second edition is this, and then this 5 will go to the, and then it's end of the line. So we have the first generation, the second generation, this is the last third generation. So 3 airplanes. Similar to the George, but I think the George is even less. This is the first of the George. Then the George go to the K2. Ah yeah, and the George also have 3. Okay. So the George also have 3 airplanes in a combination. And yeah, but then you can see like this one, the A7, because this is not our A6, they all belongs to the A6 generation. And this is A7, this is a complete new designed airplane, complete new background knowledge behind. It's not more upgrade, this is a complete new design, so it's A7. And this is the only one. So this is a single fighter. There's no upgrade for this one. I only want to point out that in the end game you have only these 2 airplanes. They arriving at the same time if you don't boost something. But we can see that the A7 is simply much faster. They have more gun value and they have more hit points. They're climbing faster. The way and the, I mean, this is more or less all the same. So and they're also using better guns. They have 4 20mm guns. 20mm guns are really important if you want to fight against something with armor, because heavy machine guns are they have always problems with armor. So the attack value, the gun value is one thing, but you must also check what kind of weapons they have. So this is simply the much better airplane. This is the only one you can operate from a carrier, so this has a high-end carrier-based airplanes. It is only that this one to get much faster or earlier is hard. This one you can get earlier. But I don't know if it really makes sense to try to get this airplane. Because this is a generation before. The gap between these 2 airplanes are not so crazy. A little faster, okay. These have a little more range. The hit points are the same, armor is the same, and the firepower is also equally good. You have here a lot of heavy machine guns. So normally this guy have more firepower, but it's a little slower. So I would say, I don't know if it really makes sense to go for this one. I can also keep with this one. This last upgrade is simply not really so great to say, wow, perfect. I would better say, if I want to upgrade from this airplane, I better go for this. Because here you can see that here is simply the firepower is more or less the same, and you have here really the 4 20mm guns, not only 2. And you have a really big speed advantage. And speed is really important. And you have more hit points. And yeah, I think this is first enough. I will explain, I explained this all already, so everything is, now I repeat myself. Still, I will go next time to explain that you must check your airframe and see what engine they use, because engine means more or less also development time. And what else you normally can do with your airplanes, or what airplanes you want to use more or less. Good. And if we are done with all this Air Force stuff, I explain a little about how to upgrade ships maybe. And then we can start with running the real war battles. Then I will run every turn I have, and we can show the combat results and what happened. And then I can roughly explain what I did, why I did it, what I did wrong. Something like this. Good. Now I say bye bye. See you again.